So you're going to have to move. I'm a bit busy. Are you going to shift? You're going to move? Alright then, thank you. Hi guys, hope you're all well. Today, some of you know, I've been in a bit of a rut. Can't seem to get out of it after not being very well, and then Christmas holidays and everything else. My mojo's just, you know, it's just not there. So this is my kind of little tip, if you like, for getting yourselves out of a rut if you're a bit stuck. Go and do something you like doing. You know, your favourite technique. Doesn't matter if you've done it before or not. What you need to do is just kind of get things firing in your brain. It kind of brings other things out while you're working. So, you know, just don't sit there looking at your desk. Just go and do something fun that you enjoy doing. It doesn't matter if it's a simple thing or a hard thing, you know, try a cane, but try and do something you've already done, so that you know you won't make a boo-boo with it, and that won't add to how you're feeling. I know a lot of people have been a bit off with the clay at the minute, through discussions we've had in group and stuff. So yeah, just go back to basics. You know, go and have a look at somebody's videos, maybe pick one of mine, go back and just have a play along, do something that you know will turn out amazingly, no matter how many times you do it. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to have a play with some Cernit Translucent and Opaline and some alcohol inks. Now I have done this previously where I've just coloured the layer of clay with ink on top, not coloured the whole of the clay, and that's what we're going to do again today. So I'm going to get myself some translucent and some opaline around equal parts, not a great deal. We're going to do a Mokume Gane, and I'm just going to use translucent and opaline in layers with some alcohol inks. I'm going to go for browns. I fancied like a vintage look, so I've got hazelnut, sepia and latte. Of course, use whatever colours you want. Just bear in mind that some colours separate, especially the ranges, so you may get a tone of a different colour. Especially with browns and greens it happens because they separate into yellows and reds, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out with this. So I'm going to go and condition some translucent and opaline, probably about an ounce of each, not a great deal. Get them nicely conditioned on a 0, and then we're just going to colour the squares as we go, then there's no waste, rather than colouring a full piece. Okay guys, I'll go and get some of this conditioned and I'll be back in a sec. Hi guys, okay, so I've got my opaline and I've got my translucent. They're both on a 0, which is my thickest setting, and I'm just using my 2-inch square, and I'm just going to cut some squares out of this. And Doris is on her way over. She wants to sit here again. No miss, what do you think you're doing? Thank you. She's been a right pest today, I tell you. And I'll cut some translucent out. There we go. So I've got 3 opaline. I didn't press them very well, did I? 3 opaline and 4 translucent, and we're just going to make a nice block with these guys. Again, as much or as little as you would like. Let me just get these scraps up and get my squares sorted. And as usual, I'm probably going to put a scrap bit on the bottom. Because, you know, nobody sees that bit, do they? So I'll just cut some bits out and make a square up. Doesn't have to be perfect, it's just our base to get us started. I'll just give it a little roll to at least smooth it out. There we go. Pop these bits to one side. I always try and keep tidy, but it never works. Cat fluff everywhere. Okay, so this will be our base. Let me just pick that up. And I will put a little bit of colour on this. And all I'm going to do is alternate between the Opaline and the translucent. I'll get a little bit of alcohol and a brush, I think, just to make sure that it's spread around okay. Don't want that brush, it's too hard. Let's try this one. Just putting a little bit of alcohol on my desk and wetting my brush, and I am just going to wet the surface just to help this spread around a bit. So I'll just put a couple of drops on and spread it around. Again, you do you with your colours, you know, whatever it is you want to do. You could make it darker or lighter on one side, it doesn't really matter. Just, you know, do what you want. I'll just get a wet wipe, and I can just wipe the excess of that alcohol off the brush, and it doesn't mix too much. Okay, so translucent on top. You could pop some foil in, guys. You know, you could do whatever you want with this. In fact, I'll just give it a quick mist. I do that, then I don't get a dark blob, guys. It doesn't soak straight into the clay then, and I don't get a dark blob. To be fair, with what we're doing with this, it won't really matter much. I want quite a dark layer, and because we just need this to air off a bit as well, don't forget. And of course I'm doing it this way, then we're not making a hell of a mess. You know, just let that fume off a second. I'll just clean my brush while we're waiting. I really like that latte colour. Okay, so then I'm going to go back in with an Opaline, and I think this time I'll put a bit of this sepia. Now this is dark. Oh, and I didn't spray it first, but let's not worry about it too much because it is quite a dark colour, the sepia, so it shouldn't leave a blob of colour. I can just see it a little bit, but it'll be fine. Just clean that off. Then another translucent. I think I'm going to leave a translucent layer with no colour on, so I'll put that on, and I'll do spray it with a little bit of this first, a bit of that latte on. it's a bit like the sepia tone wise. I'll just let that fume off a bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit, guys, for a little bit. I can't tell which is which. I'm going to let it sit. What will happen is the alcohol ink will slightly soak. I've done another video similar, you know, go and have a look at that one. It'll slightly soak into the clay. It gives a really lovely effect if we let it sit before we start messing with it. So that's that one. Let's pop that on top. And I'll just do one more latte, I think. I've still got some of that other colour on my brush, so they'll blend a little bit, but it doesn't matter. And I've put a little bit too much liquid on that, so I'm just going to let it evaporate off a bit before I put my top on. I'll just have a clean up while we're waiting for that to soak in. I need to clean that brush properly after. Okay, so I'm going to put the lid on. It's hard to smooth it because it's sliding, because it's still quite wet. Then we're just going to leave that for about 10 or 15 minutes before we start putting our pattern into it, because I just want it to leach into the clay a little bit. So I'll have a clean up, get some tools out to decide what pattern I'm doing. I may just freestyle it, we shall see, but I'm going to let that sit 10 or 15 minutes, guys, just to let some of the inks kind of soak into the translucent and the opaline, and we'll see what kind of effects we get. See you in a minute. Hi guys, apologies, I just glanced up to look at the screen and realised I hadn't pressed record, so I'll just talk you through what I did. I got our block after we'd let it sit. I just pushed some circles through and then my ruler through, just made a random pattern. I've sliced the first piece off, that was the top, so I sliced the first piece off, and then I've just taken a few slithers, and the bits of translucent and opaline that I had left over, I conditioned them back together. I put a few slithers down the side and I cut these shapes out. So we've got a slither overlaying opaline, and I did earrings just with these cutters, the Melanie Muir cutters. So sorry guys, that's where I'm up to. So I've just I cut this out and put it on a backing so it's double thickness. I just popped it onto the stone. This is when I glanced up and realised it wasn't recording, and I'm just going round with my nail to make sure that that edge is nice and smooth, like so, and that's ready for baking. And same with my little ones, I'm just going round with my nail, making sure they're patted down and that that edge is nice and smooth. I can always go in afterwards, guys, with to sand, but I do like to just make sure it goes in pretty neat before I start. Just get a little bit of paper and make sure that they're pressed down okay. There's a few crumbs on that one that I think I'm going to have to catch with the filing or sanding. So that's those two. I'll probably put a bail on the back of this one, just a small tube bail. In fact, with these scraps, let's just quickly make one. You don't need a lot of clay to make a bail, guys. You've seen me do this lots of times before. I just cut a rectangle dependent on the size of my pendant. I have a little acrylic rod that I just wet, then it doesn't stick too much, and I just roll this around to the other side, trim that edge off like so, and I just make sure that those edges are nice and neat, and then I press it down on the desk so that it gets a little bit of a flat bottom, and then I bake that with the pendant and then glue it on about 10 minutes in. So I'll bake that with my pendant. With these scraps, I'll probably do something else with them. If I do something, I'll show you on, as I'm doing it. And I think we'll just make a nice, maybe make a moulded pendant. Oh, could maybe do a heart. I haven't used this heart mould yet. Yeah, this is just one that was sent to me. And we could maybe, let's get this, just going to smooth it out a bit, guys, just to make sure that that surface is okay for when it goes in the mould, because it is a bit bumpy. Yeah, I think I'll use this. I've not done a heart with this, and I'm just going to pop this in here like so. Let's get it pushed in. Oh, a bit of Doris fluff has got in. Let's get that pushed in. Come off. Flipping cat fluff everywhere, I tell you. Let's just get this really pushed in nicely into the mould. Make sure all the corners are covered. And then I'll just slice this off with my blade. I'm paranoid now that the camera isn't recording. Don't know what I did. Maybe I pressed it twice or double tap stopped it. Don't know. And see, we didn't have to worry about the state of the back because doing what we did is cut off the excess. Let's give it a roll so that it's back into the right shape. I do like to go around with my finger and just pull the edges in. Just to make sure that it's pretty. And then I'll just pop it onto a piece of paper. You can bake in these moulds, guys, by the way. They're perfectly okay in the oven. I just prefer to get them out in case I want to make a batch of a few. But we've got a little heart there that I've used. It will need a bit of a sand. But there we go. I shall pop these into the oven and we'll come back and put them together into some form of a bracelet, pendant and earrings. Like I said, they might need a little sand, but on the whole they should be fine. And I shall see you all in a minute. Bye, guys. Hi guys, we're all out the oven. As usual, I've dunked mine in ice, which I normally do. I think it helps with the translucency. So there's the pendant, there's my bail on the back, there's the little earrings to go with it, really subtle and cute, and of course there's the heart that I made. Now as regular viewers know, I switch between doing some finishing in some videos or sanding in other videos, so If you haven't already seen my sanding and finishing videos, guys, go and have a look at my hints and tips playlist. There's lots of stuff in there where I show in depth certain things that I do. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish this heart with you, and I'll do the rest off camera, and I'm going to use my trusty nail files. Again, guys, there's links in the description. I use these nail files quite a bit because with the burnishing they don't really need a lot of finishing, so I've just got a couple of little bits around the edge that I can feel. Oh, so I'm just going to take them off with this rougher file, and then using the grey one, which is quite smooth, I'm just going to go around the heart. And you can use these wet, guys. They don't really give off a lot of dust, but if you're concerned, of course, you know, put a mask on, use them wet, whatever. But I'm just going to give these a quick going over just to show you that if you do get a decent finish on your pieces, like I do with the buff, you know, when I burnish the pieces, you don't really need to put a lot of effort in. So I'm just quickly going over with the smoother of the two on the grey file. And then I'll go over with the green side. And there was just there wasn't really much in this. There's just a tiny ripple down there, but I'm not overly worried, to be honest, so I'll probably just leave it as it is. And then I'll just go over with the buff a bit, and this starts to bring the shine up. As you can see, it starts to squeak. I'm just going to do half because it, you know, it is a process, I appreciate. So we've got that kind of semi-matte, semi-gloss finish on it, but it is quite smooth. Then I will go over that now with my Dremel just to bring the shine up. So I'll go and finish these bits off, guys. I'm going to drill a couple of holes. I don't know which way to have these earrings, to be honest, because the pendant's going to be that way. So maybe I should do the earrings the same way. Put the hole at the top, but do you know what? I think I'm going to be different and put the hole in the bottom. I'll drill one with you. I'm just going to get it going, and then I pick it up and drill. Try and do most of my drilling before the finishing. It doesn't sometimes work out like that on camera, guys, but at least then I know when I'm finishing that it's got rid of any little bits, and I just drill it enough so that my earring wire will fit through, and that's plenty. So I'll go and get these finished off, guys, get them buffed and polished, and I'll be back with you and we'll put the pieces together. See you in a sec. Hi guys, all polished, nice and bonny. That's lovely, isn't it? And then here's, I've popped on a bit of brown, but I've not took it off the reel, to be honest, guys. It's just 4mm brown booner. I thought it looked nice on the brown. So there's the pendant, and there's the earrings. So there we go, guys. I've got quite a chunk of that left, so I might do another video and make something else with the block. Do something a little bit different, maybe. I don't know, I'll have a think. But I'll leave you there. Just again, you know, if your mojo's a bit off, just play with some scraps, do a Mokume Gane, you know, just get the juices flowing again by doing something you do well and you enjoy doing, and it kind of gets things firing. Like now I've seen that, I've got a bit of an idea for doing a stone, full stone. So it's kind of, you know, fired off some things for me. But yeah, there we go guys. See you all on the next video. Bye.